Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at how to paint the newly released Apocalypse for Marvel Crisis Protocol. If you want to find out more about Apocalypse and what he brings to the game, then check out my unboxing, build and overview video, which you can find in the description below. For now though, let's get him painted. First off, the model has been primed using a light grey primer. You can use whatever primer you have available, but I would recommend a light grey if possible, as it will save you a small step later on. We are going to start by base coating the base, and as I'm going for an Egyptian sandstone look, we're going to start with Zandri dust. Next we are going to take a 1-to-1 mix of Skeleton Horde and Contrast Medium and cover the entire base. While our base dries, we can save time by getting our base coat onto the grey undersuit, and for this I chose Mechanicus Standard Grey. With our Skeleton Horde now completely dry, we can go back and apply a relatively heavy dry brush of Ushabti bone. This will start to pick out all of the design details really nicely. Then to finish off the base, apply another dry brush, but this time with Screaming Skull. Really focus your attention on all the edges of the detail work. With the base done, we can go back to focusing on Apocalypse himself, and this time we are coating all of the blue armour and his tabard with Thousand Suns blue. Be aware that this paint can sometimes have inconsistent coverage, so you will most likely need to apply 2 thin coats of this to get a solid base coat. You can see that there are areas where the paint looks quite patchy, but once you apply your second coat, you should have a solid base coat. Use Leadbelcher to base coat all of the metal areas, such as the trim on his armour, boots, gauntlets, and I want to say cables? Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so we are going to focus on his grey undersuit now, and we are going to start by layering on some highlights with a 2-to-1 mix of Dawnstone and Lahmian medium. The idea here is to apply multiple thin coats of this mix onto the raised areas using his clearly defined musculature as your guide. Start with a very thin layer and build up until you have a smoothest transition and focus your thickest application on top of the muscles. When you get to his face, I wouldn't recommend using the same mix. Instead, thin the Dawnstone with some water like you normally would. This is to ensure you maintain control over your application and the paint doesn't run into the cracks in his face. The model has very clearly defined facial features, so just take your time and pick these out. Next, we are going to use a 2-to-1 mix of Administratum Grey and Lahmian Medium, and we are going to do exactly the same thing that we did in the previous step, but this time covering a smaller surface area. Keep to the high point of the muscles and the most prominent facial features, such as his cheeks, eyebrows, top of his head and chin. Apply a wash of SOULBLIGHT Grey over the grey undersuit. This is to tie those different grey tones together. You also want to take some SOULBLIGHT Grey and apply it to his teeth. If you find that you have applied too much, just take a dry brush and soak up some of the paint. As I mentioned at the start of the video, this will only work if you have used a light grey primer. If you used a different colour primer, I would recommend base coating the teeth with a light grey, such as Grey Seer first. Next, we are going to tackle the eyes. Carefully paint white into the eyes. Don't worry too much if this isn't done perfectly, as we will tidy up at the end. The main thing here is to get a good solid white coverage, but make sure you don't apply the white too thickly and obscure the eye details. Apply a couple of very thin coats if you need to. With the white dry, we can now take some Bile Red and paint this into the eyes. As you can see, Apocalypse now has some very giant googly red eyes. However, that's okay, because we should still be able to see where the eyelids are, so we can take some Mechanicus Standard Grey and very carefully paint back the red to define the eye shape, leaving us with normal looking eyes. Well, as much as red eyes look normal, I suppose. Create a 1-to-1 mix of Colia Green shade and Lahmian Medium and shade over all of the blue areas and Tabard. Once the shade is completely dry, take some ARMOUR blue and use it to firstly paint the blue details on Apocalypse's face. Then, layer this onto all of the armour panels, making sure you leave the shaded recesses. Next, take some Temple Guard Blue and apply an edge highlight to the uppermost edges where the light would hit the armour, boots and tabard. To add a bit more definition and contrast to the armour panels, apply a recessed shade of Nuln Oil. Take some Leadbelcher and pick out all of the silver trim on his grey undersuit. Then, apply some Nuln Oil as a recessed shade between the silver trim and the grey areas of the undersuit. It's at this point that we can also use Nuln Oil to shade all of the other silver areas as well. Once the shade has fully dried, apply a highlight of Ironbreaker to all of the metal areas that will catch the light. Take your time to pick out all of the individual lengths on his cables, especially the ones facing upwards. Now, you may be happy with a clean silver look, and if that's the case, then feel free to move on to the next step. But personally, I wanted to go for a more ancient, dirty silver look. To achieve this, I applied a shade of Seraphim Sepia. I wasn't too worried about making sure I got this over everything, as it would make more sense for the discoloration to be a bit more random. So apply this shade to any areas that you want to make look more worn and ancient. It's completely up to you. The final step is to take some Stormhost Silver and apply an extreme edge highlight to all of those silver areas. Then all you need to do is paint the rim of the base and you're done. And here is the final result. I'm looking forward to getting him on the table and trying out the new Servants of the Apocalypse affiliation. Let me know what you think about this new release down in the comments. As always, I hope you have found this video helpful in painting your own Apocalypse, and if so, please like this video, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, then click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.